So my dad owned Peppy's restaurant for 30 years, and so many people in and out of there, so many stories. The first famous person I remember meeting in there in 1969 was Eric Barsegan, because he used to recruit heavily down in this area, and he would pick a couple of weeks for recruiting. And he would have one night at Trainees, one night at Ante's, one night at Peppy's, and he would bring recruits in. And one night my dad said, hey, you gotta come listen to this guy speak about Notre Dame. And he would give about a 40-minute speech, and you were just like, wow, I wanna go to Notre Dame. You know, he was a salesman, he was smart, and he knew how to pitch it. You know, and how many of those kids he got to go play there, I have no idea, but Wilmington, Carson, Gardena, all that area, parts of Long Beach, heavily recruited in those days, heavily recruited. So he was the first one I met that was famous. The second one is Burt Reynolds. He had a show that I think lasted a year, maybe two, called Dan August. And they had to shoot a 2-day scene at the restaurant. The funny thing is, you know, I mean, in total, they probably only filmed 10 minutes, but he was there for 2 days. And he was very handsome, very fit. I remember in between scenes, in between time, he smoked like a fiend. He was always smoking. But the word got out that Burt Reynolds is at Peppy's filming. So next thing you know, we got crowds of people standing outside of the restaurant wanting to get in to see Burt Reynolds or to see the filming, which you can't do. And so they had to actually hire multiple security agencies to come, you know, protect Burt Reynolds. And finally one day, I think it was the director, came up to Burt and says, Burt, there's about 20 people outside. We're on an hour break. Just go outside and say hi. And he went out front on 9th Street, and he talked to the people, and he autographed. And of course, you know, women wanted to give him a hug, and women wanted to give him a kiss. And you know, he was cool. He was a little aloof, but he was really, really cool about it. But the greatest story I have about famous people coming there to film is James Gardner. In 1975, I think I was a senior at Mary Star of the Sea. He had a show called The Rockford Files, and they were going to film a 2-day set in the restaurant. And I didn't really know who James Gardner was at the time, right? So anyway, they set it all up, and it takes them hours and hours to set up the whole thing to film, and the sound, and they have to check everything, and the fire department has to check everything, on and on and on. So it was after lunch. And finally, here comes James Gardner walking into the restaurant. He had an assistant with him. And the first thing he said is the owner here? He said, I want to meet the owner. And he said, he's right over there. And I'm standing next to my dad, and James Gardner comes over, and he said, are you the owner, sir? He goes, yeah. He goes, what's your name? He goes, well, they call me Peppy. He goes, Peppy, James Gardner, pleasure to meet you. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for allowing us to come to your beautiful place. It's a great place. He goes, God, it's beautiful. He goes, I hope we're compensating you well for this. He goes, I know it's a big headache. I know it's a hassle. He goes, but really, really, thank you for allowing us to come here today. I really, really appreciate it, you know. And then he turns to me and he said, oh, who's this good-looking guy? Ha ha. And he goes, oh, this is my son, Rick. He goes, oh, Rick. He goes, how old are you? I go, well, I'm 17. Well, I'm in high school. I'm a senior in high school, you know. And he says, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to be? I said, I want to be a baseball player. He goes, yeah. He goes, you a Dodger fan? I said, oh, big Dodger fan. He goes, I'm a Dodger fan too. He goes, you know, at one time, I wanted to be a baseball player. He goes, but I wasn't good enough. And I went through odd and end jobs. He goes, and finally I became an actor. He goes, you know why they created acting? I says, no, sir, I don't know why. He goes, they created acting for people that could do nothing else. That was it. And he shook my hand, and they did the scenes. I mean, he was just the greatest, nicest, most genuine person you could imagine.